All right. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Yes. Good day.
And welcome to UCU's African Heritage Study Group. And we are going to continue reading blogs. And we have a very special guest here with us, who's the author of the Crucian Dialogues. And this is Mario C. Moorhead. And at the time when we go into our reasoning session, we'll definitely expect to hear from him. So I'm Shalima Edwards.
That's Malachi.
All right. So we are going to read for about an hour and a half, might be on Amazon. Or if you are on the island of St. Croix, you can contact 340-277-7485. Again, 340-277-7485. And we are going to on page 276, She and Me.
All right. And the first round of the reading will be myself reading me and Shalima reading she. And we'll get started. Me. You have to do your own research to get the picture of how oppressive it was for immigrants. As Crucians, we had no consciousness of the blackness we shared. And as Americans, we had no compassion for foreigners. Mercifully, there were those among us who were always there to hide the man, the woman, or the family from the grasp of the immigration. And there were those to provide sponsorship and bond to those on the brink of deportation. But compassion and solidarity were in scarce supply. Our consciousness had already been programmed to be the best Americans we could be. The mere association with that, and particularly just like it took the Vencition, the Vencition, how do you say it, Vencition, Rev Barrow to introduce the Vincentian, yes, Saint Vincentian, right, to introduce the black nationalism of Marcus Garvey to the island. It would now take a Jamaican.
And that would have to be none other than the man himself, Robert Nesta Marley. Not so?
Not so. It was the right, but this would be before Bob Marley touched our consciousness.
Before Bob Marley, there wasn't any reggae music to speak of before him.
I can't speak for anyone else, but here on St. Croix, reggae music started out as a powerful underground current. Records and tapes were everywhere, but the music was never heard on our radio stations. Portable music players that preceded boomboxes had the music. And I can tell you, especially the ghetto youth, they were enthralled with big youth. That was the Jamaican who I would say first touched this island with blackness in the 70s. Bob Marley and the Wailers would come after.
I don't think I've ever heard of Big Youth. That must have been before my time. But I do agree that the reggae music out of Jamaica had an impact on Caribbean consciousness, most definitely including us.
By the late 70s, the island would start to include issues of civil rights, of the civil rights movement, with phrases like Black Power and Black and I'm Proud seasoning our conversations. And by the 1980s, our airwaves would be flooded with reggae music as the establishment embraced the late Bob Marley and we became Afro Americans. This time period also saw the change in immigration laws that would abolish the bonding and sponsorships disgrace. Would begin the long process of overcoming the prejudices that kept us at each other for 2 generations. We know only too well how slow progress has been. Politicians are always quick to take notice to the schisms in the community as they use one group against the other for their own political gains.
So here we are as dysfunctional as ever. The major difference is that we've acquired some consciousness and awareness of who we are through the degrees of the consequences of a structure over which we had no control. And because it was a federally imposed structure, I would think that other than revolution, it's going to take another generation to overcome the distrust. You might need to speak up.
A little bit louder.
Yeah, I think so.
It's the most vexing problem confronting our development as an island community. And because it's almost an even split in our population numbers, there's hardly an issue that polarization. As our immigrants became naturalized citizens over the past 20 years, our political landscape became even more amenable to domination by St. Thomas. We are a population of approximately 50,000 on a beautiful 84 square mile island, unable to agree on anything other than being loyal Americans.
What a state of affairs. The structure of our society is responsible for controlling our circumstances and it's as if the system created a household with members that can't get along with each other. And for us, the members of this dysfunctional family, we're so caught up in fussing and fighting with each other, we can't see how deliberately our disagreements were structured.
You have provided me with the question, what would you expect of the children of such a dysfunctional family?
Bingo! That's it. The numbers match. In this case, it's the consequences. The children. It's never surprising when a problem child comes out of a dysfunctional family. So I guess our question should be why are we surprised at the lawless young people we're producing? It's really right in front of us. Like so many things we refuse to see. And I'm in a perfect position to testify to how deceptive our consciousness can be. If Slick Me now has to admit I didn't know my own hair, then you know I understand.
In how you've managed to develop the parental skills to cope with your own problems. This very conversation is taking place because of your commitment. If our parents were like you, we would have a chance of saving our future. Unfortunately, we're producing more and more parents, mothers most significantly, who are just unable to develop your kind of parenting skills and commitment. Your personal history speaks to your capacity, and I can vouch for your method being considerably above average. So let's not use your yardstick to study the situation on this island.
I hear what you're saying, but don't get too cynical or clinical with me. A mother will always be a mother. It doesn't take schooling to learn it. It's instinctual as you can easily observe in the animal kingdom. The smallest mother hen will defend her babies against any threat with her. Nobody taught that chicken to be a mother. Why do we have to teach our women to be mothers? That sounds as ridiculous as it is.
Maybe we should make a distinction between motherhood and child rearing. I don't think they're the same thing. In my view, we have a minimum of problems with motherhood. As far as I can tell, mothers love their children and want the best for them. I wouldn't question the love of Crucian mothers. I wouldn't question the love, but I most emphatically question the results of the child rearing practices of a growing number of parents and guardians. I'll strongly argue that the system is consistently producing more parents, too many of our teenagers who are proving themselves unable to raise children.
This one we're going to have to disagree on. You can't convince me a mother would need any ability. Once you're able to give birth to a child, you have the ability to be a mother.
Granted, argument, wouldn't we be denying that a dysfunctional family has an effect on children? What I'm saying is that while a majority of our youth manage the obstacles, a growing minority are being severely impacted by the social strife. And this is the source of lawlessness I'm identifying as our consequences.
Okay, so not even mothers are perfect, but you could never a mother's love. We love our children.
Ironically, when the situation obviously calls for structure, there is none to be had. Our young people desperately need structured programs to engage them. Instead, our political leadership tend to incite them with the threat of extreme consequences for their behavior. Everybody talks prevention, but government funds are spent on the police and their ever increasing is never enough for prosecutors, prisons, and the staffing they require. The end result is that everyone would like to do better, but the funds are simply not available.
But our Department of Education gets one quarter of the yearly operating budget. How are they able to generate so many dropouts while spending more than $12,000 per student? If anything, they have to be a weak link of educating our children.
Without rehashing the devastating change imposed by Pywanski, I'll just ask, what did you expect? 80% of our population is of African descent, and that number increases in the public schools. But Governor Pywanski and New York University totally ignored those realities in reforming our school system to their liking. Our public schools function and teach like the schools of America, and we produce the same disastrous results. There isn't even the slightest recognition of the background of the students. The curriculum doesn't consider the giant eye refinery as a reason to prepare students any more than a nearly all black enrollment differs from a majority white student population. Since the emphasis is to teach all children the same, our African